From day one, the MC made it crystal clear he wasn't just here for the ride when it came to the gift of cultivation. Even as a little kid, he already had his master wrapped around his finger and locked down his spot as the favorite in the whole crew. Before even hitting 30 and watching life pass by, our guy already had his foot in the door of a realm that would make anyone jealous. The problem is, right when it was time to take that final step toward the heavens, Destiny decided to play a massive prank on him. In the blink of an eye, the MC finds himself more lost than a tourist without a map, having zero clue about what just went down. Out of nowhere, he comes face to face with this massive flying hunk of junk that makes any mountain look like a tiny toy. He barely had time to cross himself before an explosion blew a massive hole right in the side of that ship. Down on the ground, coughing and eating dust, he tries to figure out what in the world is going on, still feeling a little dizzy. The MC tries his hardest to figure out what corner of the map he just landed in. Looking up, he spots two weird-looking dudes walking out of the wreckage, looking like they are definitely not from this planet. The scene now is an ocean of stars where alien hunter races and creepy critters fight over every single inch of the vacuum. And the message is simple: whoever takes down the monster of the hour gets to pocket the cash right on the spot. While the dust rises in the city, a colossal monster is causing absolute chaos, making the folks run for the hills. The creature doesn't hold back, splashing everything with this yellow goo that definitely does not smell like roses. Two heroes try to hold up what's left of the ceiling, screaming in each other's ears, trying to find strength where there is none. When one of them gets stuck, his patience runs out and he immediately asks where the heck those interstellar guardians are hiding. One guy checks his wrist and declares that waiting for them is just asking for game over. It is way better to trust the private service, where the damage is lighter. Said and done, the private rescue ship shows up, promising that nobody there is going to become a statistic today. The clever alien gets hoisted up by a hook and is already celebrating his sweet escape, right under the watchful eye of the hero who got left behind. The pilot, full of himself, guarantees that their service is lightning fast and there is room for everyone, while the clients celebrate their money well spent. A green dragon-shaped ship cruises the sky, saving families, showing off so hard it drops everybody's jaws. In another corner, a pink alien lady is huffing mad because everyone else already got picked up except for her, but her mood instantly flips just imagining the luxurious ship that must be on its way for her triumphant rescue. Right as that moment, the MC tears through the air, coming in hot with his sword drawn and totally locked in. He reaches his goal, stares down the giant purple monster, and lets out that sigh of someone who finally made it to their destination. The MC lands right in front of the pink client and, with perfect manners, apologizes for keeping her waiting. Striking a totally confident pose, he introduces himself as the rescue professional she had been waiting for so badly. The lady, however, is not impressed at all. She thinks it is ridiculous that the guy showed up on foot and basically tells him to get lost. He asks for a little leap of faith, points at his own blade, and promises that his sword flies faster than a thought to get her out of there. Furious, she yells that she got scammed, complaining that the price she paid is not worth this hunk of iron, pointing straight at the high-tech competition. But the first rescuer's luck turns sour. He gets snagged by a monster's tongue and completely freaks out when he sees his rope hanging by a thread. The MC and his client get front row seats to this whole mess, looking like they just saw a ghost. That other fancy ship gets swarmed by the beasts, and the folks inside realize, screaming at the top of their lungs, that space really was for everyone, monsters included. That so-called fortune dragon also turns into an all-you-can-eat buffet, and the crew starts saying their prayers, sure that it is game over. Right after that, a massive flash takes over everything and a giant explosion paints the sky with fire. The pink alien looks at the MC, not believing her eyes, and asks if he is actually serious about his offer. He mentions that the difficulty level here is way too high for his taste, and starts to say his goodbyes, but the woman panics and begs him to figure something out no matter what. She points at the freaks coming their way and screams at him to move it and keep her safe. The MC stops, scratches his head, and points out that etiquette does not allow such close contact between a man and a woman, having no idea where to even grab her. The client completely loses her mind and asks if he is crazy for trying to debate good manners at a time like this. The MC swears he has no hidden motives, but she can only scream that his sluggishness is going to get them both sent to the Shadow Realm. At her absolute limit, she uses her last breath to just tell him to get her out of that nightmare right now. So, our boy digs into his memory for the lesson about planting his feet like a mountain and having the grip of a root that no wind can bend. He remembered his master handing him the green bamboo sword, asking young Ah Ching to have the same resilience as the plant. The old man even bragged that his student was basically already teaching him, reminding him that the new bamboo always ends up looking down on the old one. His mentor's voice echoes in his mind, giving the final order for Ah Ching to unleash the power of the green bamboo sword. Back in the heat of the moment, the MC summons his ultimate technique and makes the imperial art of the green bamboo sword shine. A burst of energy takes over the place, weaving a net of glowing green blades that float around, ready to strike. He scoops the client up in his arms and takes to the sky, while the technique gets ready to shred any defense that pops up. The attack is unleashed, and what you see is a ballet of green energy slicing and dicing the monsters with zero mercy. A guy peeking out his window almost throws a party, yelling that salvation just dropped from the sky and that this dude is built different. The pink alien, who was totally brushing him off before, now has her eyes wide open and wants to know who just pulled off such an epic flex, puffing his chest out. He drops that he is a cultivator straight out of Shuangguang Mountain, and he throws his name in the ring with all the swagger. Yi Genkin, at your service. The MC makes sure to emphasize that his school is from the mortal realm where things get real and discipline is made of iron. In a flash of memory, he says goodbye to his crew, letting them know he achieved the Tao, and that ascending to the immortal realm is a one-way trip. Back to the crazy situation, he looks at the two aliens and, judging by their stance, figures they must be big shots from some powerful sect. So he politely starts a chat. The duo does not even blink, throwing back a super nasty glare with exactly zero hospitality. They just stand there, frozen, keeping a silence so heavy it actually hurts your ears. Out of nowhere, those two completely lose their cool, accuse the MC of trashing their ship, and start blasting lasers in every direction. The MC picks up the pace and bolts out of there, with the duo hot on his heels demanding every single penny for their space damages. He suddenly stops in his tracks, feeling like the whole plotline has gone completely off the rails. Staring at the sky full of weird planets and galaxies, it finally hits him that he missed the address for his ascension by a mile. When the aliens finally corner him, the MC totally loses it, screaming that his ascension got glitched and begging to get out of this supposed demon realm. A glowing screen pops up flashing the title, Accredited Rescue Commission. Yigan Chin drops his client off on solid ground and says a classy goodbye. Absolutely charmed, she lets him know that she is only using his services from now on. The cash deposited notification glows on the screen, and the MC celebrates that his piggy bank is filling up so he can finally find his way back home. He cuts through the city skies with his mind completely focused on raking in more cash with this new side hustle. An old alien guy, hanging from a building like laundry on a clothesline, screams that his gadget broke and rescue is not picking up. In the absolute panic of someone who really does not want to meet his maker today, the old man promises even what he does not have to, whoever gets him out of there. The MC, gliding on his trusty sword, thinks to himself that the trip already paid for itself, and this job literally fell from the sky. He heads over to the gentleman telling him to chill out and promising that rescue is here to set things straight. Except right in the middle of it, a red laser beam almost takes the tip of his nose off. The beam hits the building next door dead on, kicking up a fireball that could light up your very thoughts. A woman with glowing red skin chugs from her bottle, lets out a hiccup, and scoffs about how the job was way too easy. She introduces herself as Crimson Alex, the hellish gunslinger, warning everyone that whoever gets in the way of her profit is going to have to deal with her robots. Ikaroro and Yorokaka. A pilot passing by goes into shock when he recognizes the legendary and terrifying drunkard, yelling for everyone to bolt while they still can. Alex calls everyone a bunch of wimps, while her robots try to guess if what she is drinking is pure alcohol or some crazy hardcore mix. Little Irakaka sounds the alarm. Looks like somebody already beat them to the punch and grabbed the old guy first. The gunslinger gets a nasty shock when she sees her target is already taken, and not by her. It was our guy Yi Denking, casually explaining that, in the rescue game, finders are keepers, and assuring the old man that their deal is still on. But the peace does not last long. A rain of red lasers blows up nearby, forcing the MC to do some crazy juggling with the old man in his arms. During a split second of distraction, Alex's hand manages to snag the target by the angle. She holds the poor guy upside down and warns him, if his supposed fortune is just cheap talk, his house is going to become target practice. The old man swears on his life that he will pay. The MC is not letting that slide, so he uses the green bamboo sword art and yanks the old guy right back, making the poor man scream all over again. Ye Genqing manages to balance the gentleman on top of his sword and lets him know he is in good hands now. The old guy, realizing he just became a human tug-of-war, suggests he would have been better off hanging from the building and begs them to have mercy on his old bones. That is when Alex's little robot gets serious and activates the so-called illusory arsenal. Foaming at the mouth with rage, the gunslinger pulls out a giant weapon and declares, "If the profit is not hers, it is not going to be anyone's." She fires a massive bubble of some weird blue liquid, naming the attack the landmine water shot. The MC chucks the old man far away to save him, grumbles about his bad luck acting up again, and ends up getting swallowed by the giant bubble. He finds himself completely submerged in that sticky mess without a single chance to catch his breath. Inside, he thanks his helmet for the oxygen, but realizes this technique locks up his movements like wet cement. Crimson Alex grabs the old man, announces that the rescue is in her hands now, and immediately demands her payment, while the old guy almost chokes from how rough she is being. Submerged, the MC smells the loss coming and decides that, if they are fighting over his daily bread, he is going to have to pull out the big guns. He forms a hand seal with his fingers and tells the universe not to complain about the absolute lack of mercy that is about to drop. His mind flashes back to a day when a bedroom door got busted down with a terrifying crash. Two guys storm into the room, one of them fuming with anger because the master does not like an audience when his stomach decides to betray him. The other guy, totally panicking, yells that little Achin down the immortal wine like it was water and is using his buzz to practice a forbidden technique. He walks into the messy room, not believing his eyes, since the kid is way too young to handle such heavy power. Right in the middle of that mess, young Aching, our very own MC, keeps his cool, super focused on the finger choreography to seal the fate of his technique. Without blinking an eye, he fires up his powerful transformation technique because there are absolutely no amateurs around here. Totally spooked, the crew goes on high alert trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Back to the present, a colossal whale bursts out of the bubble, leaving Crimson Alex's eyes popping out of her head. The gunslinger and the old man look up completely lost, and she immediately starts screaming, demanding to know what kind of freak show that is. With a boom that makes the ground beg for mercy, the beast's tail slams down with all the force in the world. The old guy is right there now, in one piece and breathing, but looking like he just fell off the back of a moving truck. He glares at those two giant, gooey figures and goes off on them, asking if their whole goal is to send him to the afterlife. Out of nowhere, a blast of yellow energy hits the two monsters dead on, catching the old man completely off guard. The impact is solid and heavy, not even giving the creatures a single second to think about defending themselves. The beatdown keeps coming without a break, leaving the slimy beasts completely out of the fight. Crimson Alex looks up at the sky, jaw totally dropped, and can barely finish her sentence looking at what is right in front of her. Right after that, a spaceship that looks more like a floating city appears right over them, flexing a spotlight that would blind anybody. Our boy and the gunslinger just stand there side by side, looking like absolute ants in front of that behemoth parked in the sky. The two greenish aliens glare at the MC with some serious, rusting, angry faces, trying to intimidate him, but the MC does not flinch and throws the exact same glare right back at them, making the mood heavier than lead. The duo's tough guy act does not last long, and they start breaking a cold sweat, feeling the heavy pressure of the kid's stare. Our main guy's look goes completely sour, wearing that expression of someone who is 1 second away from snapping. Cut to another moment, and he is seen giving one of the aliens acupuncture, dropping the diagnosis. The guy's body is loaded with internal dampness. The skinny alien mentions that they scoured the star map looking for the Shuangguang Mountain, but that place simply does not exist in their system. The MC thinks that is hilarious, because if their ship ran him over right when he was ascending, his mountain could not possibly be on another world. But the alien insists that the kid popped out of nowhere like a ghost, and that this whole becoming an immortal talk is something nobody in those sectors has ever heard of. The MC's world completely crashes down and he just stands there, totally shattered, trying to understand how his life script got so twisted up. The one-eyed alien then drops the big question. Have you ever stopped to think about what happens when Ascension glitches out and a guy only becomes half immortal? The scene cuts back to the fight, where a barrage of yellow lightning is having an absolute field day on top of the slimy creatures. The bombardment is heavy, triggering an explosion that kicks up a totally massive smokescreen through the dust. The alien folks look up, trying to figure out if this is the end of the world or the start of something new. Until one of them lets out a cheer. The Interstellar Guardians finally showed up and the nightmare is officially over. A battalion of flawless soldiers rushes into the chaos with the commander ordering maximum speed to clear the area. Meanwhile, two guys point toward the center of the action, with one of them screaming for everyone to check this out. They keep their eyes locked on one of the guards staring down a giant monster that looks like a slug on serious steroids. The soldier laments the trail of destruction and the lives that this thing snatched away. Then he charges in full force, yelling that this is unforgivable, and unloads an energy punch that blasts straight through the monster. The squad is left completely jaw-dropped when they see the guy pulverize the beast's core in a single hit, wondering who this absolute legend is. One of the guards spots some dirt on his uniform star and tries to wipe it off. As he cleans it, he realizes it was just a piece of that nasty creature that splattered on him. The big bruiser then introduces himself with total authority: Thunder, captain of the Interstellar Guardians. The crowd goes absolutely wild, and the fanbase immediately starts freaking out, calling the guy every compliment in the dictionary. The captain, completely serious, pays zero attention and orders his team to start the rescue up, since the targets have already been dealt with. The guards spread out, tending to the wounded and yelling at everyone to stop the bleeding. Two soldiers rescue the old man, who looks up at the sky thanking his lucky stars that he is still breathing. Except, looking over his shoulder, the old guy spots our MC and Crimson Alex watching everything from a distance, and his blood immediately boils. He points his finger and snitches them out, claiming those private rescuers treated him like an animal, and demands they get locked up right now. Seeing that the jig is up, our boy and the gunslinger try to make a run for it before things go totally south. But Thunder pops up right in front of them, letting them know that ditching a client in trouble is a sin he absolutely does not tolerate. In one smooth move, the captain cuffs them both, while they still try to argue that there are two sides to the story, begging to be let go. Without much chatter, he ships the duo straight into the prison ship, giving them zero chance to talk back. Inside, cramped up like crazy, a guard announces that they are at full capacity and it is time to take off. Outside, Thunder says he is taking what is left of the monster and the two clowns to headquarters, brushing off anyone who thinks he needs to take a break. The captain says his goodbyes, leaving the rest of the grunt work to the crew, and heads out in his own ship. Prison Ship 601 gains altitude and tears through the sky, radioing in that their destination is headquarters. In that tiny cell, the MC and Crimson Alex share a bench, both feeling the heavy iron cuffs on the wrists. Our boy tries to lighten the mood by calling her Miss Hero, but instantly gets hit with a sut-up, so he stops being funny. He cracks a smile and says that the best friendships come from absolute chaos, but she claps back, saying if he makes one more peep, she will end him herself. Not even fazed, the MC strikes up a conversation again, noticing a connection between his spells and the way she makes weapons pop out of thin air. The gunslinger loses her mind, screams that those things don't mix at all, and tells him to go take a long walk off a short pier, pulling out a massive hand cannon that has the other inmates shaking in their boots. The cut shows the ship leaving a trail of white light, shooting across the endless vacuum in a single breath. At the end of the day, the whole shootout was all in her head. The two of them are still sitting there, frozen and quiet, right next to each other. The kid decides to break the ice again, guessing she must be strapped for cash too, considering how hard she fought for that bounty. She confesses, spitting pure venom, that she wants the cash to buy the most wicked weapon in existence and wipe this world off the map for good. The MC plays it cool and points out, he says she talks tough, but she is a total softie, since she only saves people and did not even try to escape, even though she is armed to the teeth. Alex fires right back, saying she only had her eye on the old man's massive payout and was just waiting for the Guardians to slip up, and that his life is not worth a single red cent to her. She labels him the biggest weirdo in the galaxy, totally clueless about why a blockhead like him works his fingers to the bone just for some pocket change. The question hits him right in the chest and makes him go quiet, dropping his guard and looking down for a second. His memory drifts back to peaceful times, where a very chill-looking master had a little bird sitting right on top of his head. He sees himself at home, surrounded by his martial brothers and his master, in a time where happiness was never in a rush to leave. He remembers the peak of his ascension, when he took to the colorful skies heading toward what he thought was eternal glory. Back in the stuffy cell, he answers in a whisper, "It's to earn enough to make it back home, and as a bonus, finish the job he left half done back then." Alex gives him the side-eye, clicks her tongue, and mutters that the guy is just way too full of himself. Suddenly, the ship's alarm starts blaring and the gunslinger snaps her head around, feeling that things just went south. The red alert flashes everywhere and the prisoners completely panic, having no idea where the danger is coming from. Up in the cockpit, Captain Thunder also gets a jump scare when his radar warns that an unknown living thing is right on their tail. Outside in the pitch black of space, a structure that looks like a giant open maw gets ready to strike while the danger signal just will not stop. The colossal jaw snaps shut, swallowing the whole ship like it was just a little afternoon snack. Crimson Alex is left wide-eyed, completely unable to process the absolute worst luck that just hit them. Right after the MC looks around, dizzy as can be, trying to figure out what kind of crazy place they just got dumped into. Panic spreads through the inmates, screaming and demanding to know what black hole of the universe they ended up in. Everyone finds themselves surrounded by living, gooey walls, and one of them questions if this place even counts as reality anymore. Our main guy starts thinking hard, feeling like the trip to the Guardian's lockup was way too fast. But an inmate totally kills his vibe, calling it complete nonsense, seeing as even Thunder himself ended up trapped right there with them. The captain scopes out the area, looking like a guy analyzing a very serious warboard. He drops the final verdict. Looks like the whole squad is dinner now, and they are stuck straight inside the beast's belly. Not even sweating the consequences, Thunder lunges and unloads a massive punch right into the wall of flesh. Except the place is bouncy as heck, absorbs the hit, and bounces the captain right back like a spring. He explains that the meat is soft, but it takes a beating and cuts off all signals, guessing that only a super heavy-duty laser could blow a hole through it. Right then, an inmate lifts up a cannon, and the captain, totally surprised, asks if that is the kind of firepower he was talking about. The rest of the aliens almost fall over backwards when they recognize Crimson Alex's gun, thinking she lost her mind aiming right at the commander. The girl flashes a smirk and warns them, this isn't the slammer, and if they don't tie up the captain right now, he is going to arrest everybody the second they make it out of the beast's stomach. Thunder says he knows the reputation of her arsenal, but warns her that even with his squad distracted, she cannot handle him all by herself. The crew gets hyped up by the gunslinger's idea and starts a chorus saying their only shot at freedom is teaming up to take the big guy down. In the blink of an eye, Thunder is already tangled up in Alex's special tapes, completely unable to move a muscle. One of the inmates points a gun at him and tells the man to chill out, letting him know the gunslinger's hardware does not play games. With her cannon ready, Alex rallies everyone to help blast a hole in that wall and get the heck out of there. But our boy cuts right through the conversation and asks her to hold her horses for a second. He points out that turning into fugitives is already bad enough, and raising their hands against authority is only going to make their sentence a whole lot worse. 1 minute later, there's our main guy tied back to back with Captain Thunder himself. The captain admits he actually respected the kid's attitude, but he just can't resist dropping a brutally honest comment. Still tied up in knots, Thunder asks if the kid is missing half his brain, and why he didn't use his head before trying to play the hero. The MC lets out a genuine laugh, admits he acted completely on impulse, and introduces himself as Yi Jiangqing, saying it is a total pleasure to meet the commander. The captain groans that the desperation is real, because just imagining he is going to become fertilizer next to a goofball like this makes him want to just give up entirely. Our boy is totally lost in the conversation and asks what all this digested talk is about. The captain spells out the obvious. A giant freak of nature swallowed the crew, and pretty soon the gastric acid is going to turn everybody into a fading memory. Yi Jiangqing finds the whole plot super sketchy and asks, if we got swallowed, why are we still inside the ship? Where did it end up? And who was the saint who took off our cups? The captain completely freezes, wearing a blank stare as he tries to process the absolute mindbender the MC just hit him with. Then it hits him like a freight train. He yells that he is an absolute donkey for forgetting the basics and starts rambling about filters, hypnosis, the afterlife, or dreams, until the MC tells him to tone it down and take a chill pill. Meanwhile, the other inmates keep lighting up the flesh wall with gunshots, with one of them screaming for nobody to slack off because the hole is almost done. In the middle of the racket, one guy notices danger coming from above and yells for Alex to stop what she is doing and look at the ceiling. She gets annoyed, complaining that she is an inch away from blasting an exit, and demands to know what kind of stupid distraction this is now. Turning her head, her tough attitude turns into a massive question mark. A crack opens up in the ceiling and she, already fed up, asks what kind of fresh nightmare is showing up now. The gap turns into a horrifying mouth, full of teeth and drooling worse than a kid in a candy store. From that hole, some gray sludge starts dripping and spreading out all over the floor. The gooey mess comes alive and starts taking the shape of a really creepy octopus. One of the inmates, who must be missing a few screws, actually thinks the thing is cute and even comments on how adorable the little critter is. Except the beast doesn't want cuddles and turns to the guy with a look like it is about to collect a very old debt. The creature flashes its fangs and lunges full speed, sinking its teeth into the poor guy and setting off an energy burst that lights up the room. The audience of aliens watches the massacre in total shock, letting out a collective "what?" while the beast keeps enjoying its snack. The monster finishes the job, chewing up what's left of the guy with an appetite that makes you instantly regret watching. It lifts its head, showing off the dead guy's eye still perfectly intact between its teeth, making a crunching noise that turns your stomach completely upside down. One of the prisoners watches the scene totally paralyzed, sweating buckets from pure terror. To make a bad situation even worse, the crack in the ceiling rips wide open into a crater, dropping hundreds of little monsters, making one alien scream to the heavens. The falling creatures are just mini clones of the first one, each rocking a giant red eye and a mouth that is basically a chainsaw. The horde doesn't wait for an invite and charges right in. One of them chomps down on another inmate who starts screaming his head off, while Alex just watches the total disaster unfold. Another little bugger tries its luck on a group nearby, but one of the prisoners fights back and blows the invader into a puddle of green juice, tied up with nowhere to run. The captain and the MC watch the absolute chaos with grim faces, really feeling the weight of the situation. Total panic takes over and another poor guy gets grabbed, screaming, as he turns into a quick snack for the beasts. One alien tries to play the tough guy and punches one of the bugs, turning it to smoke, but the despair hits right back when he sees 1,000 more taking its place. With the walls closing in from every side, panic becomes the rule, and someone yells for everyone to run for their lives before there's no one left to tell the tale. In a whole other corner of existence, the master looks at the horizon and wonders where in the world Ah-Chang is, since it has been an eternity since the kid ascended to the heavens. He grumbles, feeling his age, saying the kid must have forgotten who taught him how to take his first steps. The old man lets out a sigh and decides his best bet is to check his fortunes to see if his student is doing well in life. He flashes a hand sign, points at an urn, and orders the thing to rise up. The object starts glowing with a blinding light, releasing a purple energy that fills the air. Suddenly, the master's face drops in total shock and he lets out a "what" that echoes everywhere. In the middle of the smoke, the vision that pops up is completely twisted and full of bad vibes. The smoke forms the symbol of doom, warning that the MC's luck has completely run out and the danger is very real. Back in the belly of the beast, the eye on that giant mass on the floor gives a super creepy blink. The eyeball starts mutating, growing, and turning into something nobody would ever want to see up close. Right then, one of the little monsters rips out its own eye and throws it like a sniper shot. The creature starts splashing the prisoners with this yellow goo, and the crowd freaks out, demanding to know what kind of curse this is. One of the aliens gets the worst of it, taking a direct hit and screaming in agony, completely consumed by fear. All of a sudden, a loud crack cuts right through the screaming. It is Captain Thunder who completely busted out of his ropes and kicked off his freedom by punching one of the beasts, leaving everyone absolutely speechless. With pure fury written all over his face, Thunder glares at the enemy and calls out just how brutal these things are. He plows through the horde like a total bulldozer, handing out beatdowns to several at once without missing a single beat. Right in the middle of the fight, he roars that the nasty stuff they are doing is completely unforgivable. Our MC, who is still tied up like a burrito, has absolutely no clue how the captain broke out of those heavy-duty tapes. Turning his head, he comes face to face with the monster army heading straight for him and just lets out an "A" of pure surprise. Suddenly, a heavy smokescreen explodes right in the middle of the swarm, sending a bunch of monsters flying. The dust slowly settles, revealing a blurry shadow right in the middle of all that mess. In the core of the smoke, a creepy furry creature covered in tentacles starts to take shape. Then, straight out of the ashes, some kind of giant moose pops up, using its antlers to skewer the monsters with zero mercy. The rest of the prisoners drop their jaws, and one of them yells, asking what the heck kind of beast just appeared out of nowhere. The creature lands solid on the ground, blowing smoke from its hooves that literally gives you the chills. Suddenly, the beast starts shrinking and shifting, revealing that it was our MC the entire time, holding a pair of antlers that look more like two massive logs. The kid grumbles to himself, dying to finally get this transformation right without struggling so much. Captain Thunder takes a breather from the beatdown and looks around, looking like he just misplaced something super important. He gets absolutely furious and yells, asking where the gunslinger went, finding it super sketchy that she hasn't busted through the flesh wall yet. Somebody points at a tear in the wall and snitches that she used the chaos to slip away on her own. Wondering how that woman even fit through such a tiny gap, the crowd piles up at the opening. One complains that the place looks like a giant's backside. Another warns that the laser went bust, but a third tells everyone to shut their traps because the monsters are back on the offensive. Already on the outside, Alex lets out a little smirk and scoffs that saving others is for daydreamers, since she is the demonic sniper and doesn't do charity. Except her joy trip doesn't last long. She gets a jump scare, lets out an A, and feels a massive chill run right up her spine. The exact same giant mouth that swallowed the ship pops up right in front of her, proving that Destiny really loves a good dose of irony. Inside, a colossal white tentacle pushes through the hole Alex made, making an inmate scream in pure panic at the new threat. The tentacle grabs the gunslinger, who thrashes around and curses at the monster, telling it to let her go while unloading her gun right into the beast. The giant bugger starts squeezing its way in through the flesh wall, and one alien almost passes out from fear seeing that things just went from bad to absolute worst. Thunder crushes one of the smaller bugs and lets out a roar, trying to figure out what kind of absolute nightmare they just stumbled into. Through the ship's screens, the horror movie keeps playing and the scream of some poor guy echoes over the radio, shattering the silence. On the monitor, you can hear the total despair of a prisoner turning into a late-night snack for that massive creature. A mysterious figure watches the whole thing from the VIP seats, observing the absolute chaos happening inside the monster's belly. A dude in a yellow helmet tells this Mr. Nexar that the selection for the requested candidates is officially a wrap. A big shot just confirms that the group meets his exact standards. In the middle of the mess, a golden star gets tossed on the floor like it is complete garbage. The star glows like crazy and starts putting out an energy so heavy it actually makes the air vibrate. The captain announces that the bulk of the monster squad has been dealt with, and the main goal now is finding another exit before the roof caves in. A prisoner in sunglasses thinks he is the coolest guy in the room and celebrates that. Says there are only 3 of them left, they can finally. But he never finishes his sentence. The guy explodes into 1,000 pieces, letting out an A of pure shock before completely checking out. Thunder looks back, totally shook by that straight out of a horror movie scene. The dude turns into a puddle of green goo popping from the inside out right under Alex and the MC's noses. A voice out of nowhere congratulates the 3 survivors using a tone that definitely screams bad news. The trio looks up and sees, through a hole way up high, a bunch of people peeking in. One of them mocks them, saying the 3 were handpicked straight out of the trash. The voice keeps up the trash talk, doubling down that they are the absolute best leftovers from the garbage pile. A woman in black gear and a helmet spits pure venom, saying they deserve absolutely nothing but to rot in a pile of manure. The lady in black orders the executioners to haul the 3 of them to the pods, and the goons confirm the order is a go. Thunder calls the woman a heartless monster and asks if this whole twisted show was her sick idea. He keeps going off, saying nobody there deserved such a gruesome end, and demanding to know if she thinks it is totally fine watching people get chewed up by monsters. The woman just flashes a cynical smile and confirms, yep, that is right, so what? The captain completely loses his cool and charges at her with his blood absolutely boiling. He roars that this low blow is unforgivable, winding up a punch to knock her lights out. Except she, cool as a cucumber, just presses a tiny button on her remote. Out of nowhere, some weird gadget locks onto the captain's spine like an iron tick. The man screams his head off in pain, feeling an electric shock fry every single nerve in his body. The shock is so intense it drops the big guy to the floor, leaving the poor dude stiffer than a rusted door. Alex, foaming at the mouth with rage, screams that she is taking this fight all the way to the end. But the woman in black creates a ball of dark energy and chunks it right at the gunslinger. The sphere explodes into a swarm of bugs that stick all over Alex, leaving the girl unable to move a single muscle. Thunder, still on the floor, yells for our MC to stay back, warning him that the crazy lady did something to their bodies. Except the MC acts like he didn't even hear it and walks right up, asking what kind of demon thinks they have the right to be so arrogant and demanding to know her name. He stops face to face with the woman, and the captain can only think that the kid just walked straight into the slaughterhouse like a total idiot. Thunder lays there wondering if all that swagger from our MC means he actually has an ace up his sleeve to take the woman down, but that hope dies super fast. The kid starts getting the exact same electric beatdown as the captain, and lets out a massive "Eee!" while the lady just holds down the button with zero mercy. Seeing the kid twitching on the floor, Thunder gets annoyed and calls him useless, asking why he acted so tough if he couldn't even handle a single hit when it mattered. Alex, still acting as an all-you-can-eat buffet for the bugs, admits she is genuinely terrified and that the villain totally wiped the floor with them without even breaking a sweat. The captain, sweating buckets, realizes the problem is way worse. They implanted some nasty junk in their bodies that locks down any reaction. And now their only option is waiting for destiny to throw them a bone. Cold as ice, like she is just ordering a coffee, the woman in black gives the final order to drag the trio down to the dungeon. The goons drop a dry "understood" and immediately start dragging the three across the floor like sacks of potatoes. Alex is not taking this humiliation quietly and thrashes around, yelling at the meatheads to at least be a little careful with her. In a flashback, a younger guy shows up having a serious chat with an acquaintance. He mentions that his older brother Fucheng has a totally out-of-this-world gift, but his life has been way too easy, and he's never known what real struggle is. The guy keeps stressing out, wondering if, with those super weird Ascension signs, the whole situation isn't just screaming danger. Meanwhile, the master and another old-timer are debating the student's fate. One thinks his talent skips the line, but the other insists the guy needs to grind through at least 3 hardcore trials to prove himself. The younger brother wraps it up saying that cultivating is literally challenging your own destiny, and sooner or later, you have to pay the toll to the heavens. Back to reality, the executioner keeps dragging the MC, who is now stuffed into 2 pathetic-looking yellow capsules. The kid thinks to himself that, apparently, Uncle Master's warnings were definitely not just hot air. The squad walks down a super creepy hallway with the lady in black leading the pack. Thunder, with his blood boiling, demands to know who these people are and how they have the guts to lock up a guardian, asking if they aren't terrified that his fleet will turn this place into space dust. The woman doesn't even flinch and tells him he thinks way too highly of himself, treating the guardians like absolute mall cops and warning him that the boss of this joint. Thunder cuts her off, finishing the sentence with a lump in his throat that the guy is an absolute ruler of the cosmos. Alex sweeps the place with her eyes and gets spooked by the endless rows of doors, wondering just how many people got snatched up to rot in here. She peeks through a crack and jumps in shock at the freak show she sees inside, screaming to know what kind of creature that is. The MC, with a serious face, smells bad news in the air and announces he is sending a talisman to scout out the area. He casually tosses a bewitched piece of paper on the floor like a total pro. The paper comes to life, turns into a little stick figure, and sprints down the hallway faster than a rumor on the internet. Like magic, the little paper guy shapeshifts into a paper frog with one single eye right in the middle of its forehead. The little guy hops around the corners, scanning every single inch of that sketchy environment. It sneaks right into one of the cells on the down low to see what these folks are hiding. Inside, the frog tucks itself into a corner of the wall, just waiting for the perfect moment to check things out. With that weird giant eye, it starts scanning all the shady stuff going down behind bars. A greenish prisoner, holding a literal brain in his hand, drools while saying that the smell of raw meat is exactly what he wants for dinner. The MC, watching everything through the talisman, bites his lip thinking about just how brutal this place really is. The paper frog keeps moving and hops into the next room, keeping the inspection going. And the scene it finds manages to be even more off the rails than the last one. A bug-faced prisoner squeezes another one in her arms and whispers super creepily that she is going to savor her cellmate real nice and slow. Our MC just goes quiet, locking away those deeply disturbing images in his brain. The paper critter keeps moving and spots another pile of monsters, with one of them just screaming, "Kill," at the wall. A robot prisoner looks like he is on cloud 9 after taking a hit, letting out an ikimochi of pure joy. Another poor guy is getting his teeth ripped out the hard way and screams in pain, while the attacker announces the pieces are going straight into his collection. A cyborg chugs a whole flask of machine oil like it is a cold beer, swearing it is his absolute favorite drink. The MC, seeing so much absolute weirdness packed into one place, figures this trip is really opening his eyes to the worst trash in the universe. The cell door finally cranks open, sounding like rusty scrap metal, letting out a puff of white smoke that stings your nose. The executioners just toss the trio inside without a second thought, and the sound of the 3 hitting the floor is followed by screams of agony. The lady in black declares that this is their new permanent address until the end of time and mocks them, telling them to go make friends with the neighbors. They just lie there on the floor while the heavy gate slams shut, completely sealing the squad's fate. The MC warns his buddies that his technique showed this place is packed with heavy-hitting criminals, and they need to be on high alert because their roommates are definitely not going to be friendly. Right in the middle of his speech, he freezes, turns his head, and drops a casual "hello" to whoever is lurking in the shadows. Right then, a girl with horns and green hair backed up by a huge dude in a maid outfit, and a yellow critter welcomes them, wishing peace and harmony in their new home. The trio has absolutely no idea what to make of this warm welcome, and the MC, more confused than anyone, can only let out an eh. The horned girl, holding onto an ivy of purple liquid, lets out a groan of pain and explains that she carries a relentless family illness. She introduces herself as Irlin, a kind-hearted elf who, despite suffering at the hands of fate, keeps light and peace right inside her heart. And just to make sure everybody knows she is suffering, she lets out a cough so dramatically heavy that even a dead guy would feel guilty. Keeping the chat going, Irlin points at the giant Tin Man and introduces him as X70K, a servant who, according to her, has a soul gentler than a late afternoon breeze. She absolutely swears up and down that the android is a total devotee of life, treating everyone with a sweet care and elegance that is just lovely to see. Just to brighten everyone's day. Then the girl pulls the yellow bugger right into the spotlight, all hyped up to introduce this Toby guy. She squeezes the little guy into a hug and promises, aside from his nasty habit of strutting around with his backside completely out in the open, the critter is an absolute gem. Meanwhile, the MC, Alex, and Thunder just stand there, processing that entire stage play, not knowing if they should start praying or call for backup. Our boy actually starts to think that, by some miracle, he found good-hearted folks in this dumpster, but Alex mentally shuts his logic down. They are just three absolute weirdos. That is what they are. Thunder, who has been around the block, figures this is definitely not the time to drop his guard and that the #1 priority is flipping this prison upside down before things go south. But Irlin cuts right through his thoughts, letting them know that, since she heard new neighbors were moving in, she prepared a little welcome treat. She and the robot show off a table with a dish hidden under a cover, offering up a feast that, judging by the smell, seems completely out of this world. The MC admits his stomach is already starting to rumble, and Alex asks if there is any wine to go with it, but the captain snaps, reminding them that they are inmates, not VIP guests. Getting yelled at, Erlin instantly deflates and starts crying softly, her pride completely shattered. With her face drenched in tears, she says she cooked that with all her love even while being on her last legs, begging them to try just a tiny little bite. She pleads with them not to reject her kindness and goes right back to coughing her lungs out while the robot tries to comfort its boss. Faced with all that emotional blackmail, Thunder can only let out a deep, super exhausted sigh. But he quickly gets his tough guy stance back and declares that he is the captain of the Guardians, not some kid in diapers who is going to fall for this kind of cheap talk. The blonde guy grabs Irlin by the shoulder and tells her to drop the act immediately. He promises he has seen this exact kind of trap a million times before, leaving the MC and Alex totally clueless, with the kid wondering what exactly the captain just figured out. The captain points his finger right at the plate and drops the verdict. There's something sketchy under there. An absolute disaster is going to strike the second they lift that lid. He gets right up in the elf's face and asks, full of swagger, if he didn't hit the nail right on the head. With a single lonely tear, Arlen cries about her own naivety for thinking the world would return the exact same kindness she puts out there. Paying absolutely zero mind to his lecture, the horned girl orders the robot to just show them what is under the lid. The servant obeys immediately and pulls the metal cover off with a sharp clink. But the big mystery was literally just a super colorful cake, loaded with yellow frosting and a purple heart sitting right on top. The blonde guy's jaw drops to the floor and he screams that this is the most wicked trap of all. A pure sugar bomb designed to wipe the squad out with cholesterol, leaving the MC and Alex completely speechless. Still totally paranoid, he yells that there is no way this thing is actually safe and keeps staring at the cake like it is going to bite him. Then he figures the evil plot has to be hiding in the filling, buried deep inside the cake. The captain inches closer to the table, super careful, ready to perform a full forensic scan on the snack. Except, right as he leans in, he hears a really weird noise coming from inside the robot. An icy metallic voice pops out of nowhere declaring, "Incorrect answer." In a flash, the android's mouth rips open and turns into a literal cannon while he screams for Thunder to take his punishment. At that exact moment, a pink beam blasts out of the robot's mouth, hits the captain dead on, and sends the man flying across the cell. RMC and Alex go into total shock over the betrayal, screaming to know what the heck is going on. With his neck all twisted up, the android announces he is going to reintroduce himself, this time without the mask. The robot reveals his true job as being a pleasure android, the kind that either tortures you to death or gets tortured to the bitter end, screaming, "Accept your punishment." the maniac literally rips his own arm off and hurls it straight at Alex. The whim flies like a rocket and explodes right in the gunslinger's face, catching the girl completely off guard. Dazed from the hit, Alex can only curse, realizing that the captain was actually right about the whole trap thing after all. The MC goes on the offensive, smashing Erlen with his stick and yelling out for the heroine, making the elf absolutely wail in pain. The elf then explains that even though everything there is made out of industrial scrap, her intentions were pure, and she only had one question on her mind. With a smile that gives you serious creeps, she finishes her thought, wanting to know if the taste is actually approved. Meanwhile, Alex, totally stuck in a pile of yellow goo, calls Ireland every name in the book for trapping her like that. Our boy calls the girl a third-rate villain and tells her to knock off the circus act while he preps a talisman to shut the whole thing down. But the elf is way faster, and in a total pro move, she uses little Toby as a human shield to cover herself. The MC is absolutely horrified by the dirty move, yelling that using an innocent as a meat shield is an all-time low. But Toby gets completely furious, asking with a voice totally full of pure hatred if he looks anything like a kid to be called that. The yellow bugger grows until he turns into a giant, dropping the bomb that he has actually been in this world for millions of years, and he is absolutely not taking that kind of nickname. With a roar that would terrify anybody, the creature just chomps down on our boy and swallows him in one single bite. Still trapped in that sticky mess, Alex screams for her little robot Kororo to activate the ultimate transformation. But the little guy replies that she is completely hallucinating and he never even had that feature. Suddenly, a massive hand grabs the gunslinger's face and a little kid's voice comments, sounding super curious, that it just found a big sister with red skin. The beast's hand slides down without any manners toward Alex's chest, while the voice confesses it has a really special liking for the color red. The creature starts tugging at the gunslinger's outfit, wondering out loud what kind of shade could be hiding right under that skin. Right then, Arlen pops back up with a super dark look on her face and eyes glowing like hot coals, suggesting, with a creepiness that gives you absolute chills, that the best idea would be to crack Alex open to check out the inside. In one swift move, the elf's hand closes around a shard of glass that shines with a seriously dangerous edge, sitting right on top of Alex, who is still glued to that yellow molasses. The girl flashes a smile and announces that the real fun is about to start, but the mood instantly flips when a furious shout orders her to stop that absolute circus act right now. Caught totally off guard, the horned girl snaps her neck around to find out who had the guts to get in her way. The robot X70K also short-circuits, completely unable to process how that miracle just happened right in front of its sensors. It stares at Thunder, who is already back on his feet, finding it super weird that the guy is still in one piece after taking a pulse cannon shot straight to the dome. The captain cuts the chatter and tells the shameless android to get lost before things get really ugly. The servant, acting all high and mighty, makes a point to correct the officer, pounding its chest to declare that the proper title is Pleasure Android. The blonde guy doesn't let himself get intimidated and declares that, as captain of the Guardians, it takes way more than a little breeze to knock him down. Right after that, letting out a massive war cry, Thunder charges in, totally determined to turn the enemy into scrap metal. Except, right in the middle of his sprint, he lets out a groan of pain and his engines completely stall, like his body just tied itself in a knot. The captain blacks out and drops to the floor like a heavy sack, while the android just lurks there, watching the giant fall. Down on the ground, the blonde guy realizes his tank is officially on empty, totally drained after so many hours of grinding without a single minute of peace. Celebrating the lucky break, the X70K pulls a rope from its arm and lets Thunder know he is about to experience a master-level tie-up. Seeing the captain down, Alex completely panics and reminds the man that he literally swore he wouldn't throw in the towel that easily. Erlen lets out an evil laugh, guaranteeing that she now has all the peace and quiet in the world to finish the job without any annoying interruptions. The gunslinger freaks out and tells the crazy girl to stop the madness, watching that piece of glass get closer and closer to her face. At the exact same time, deep inside the yellow creature's guts, Toby's voice echoes, daring our boy to call him a little brat one more time. The MC feels that the beast's outer shell is seriously tough. He even thinks about unleashing a massive firestorm in there, but figures that idea is way too extreme and plans to turn into a giant fish to burst the monster from the inside out. He quickly changes his mind, realizing that controlling a beast of that size would be an absolute headache. Plus, he would risk hurting his allies and leaving himself totally exposed. Since the fish plan went straight down the drain, our MC decides he has another transformation trick hidden right up his sleeve. He stops and thinks it over, figuring that for this exact moment, that specific move is exactly what the doctor ordered. Then his memory takes a trip back to the good old days, and an ancient temple tucked away in the mountains. In the flashback, he shows up as a little kid, sitting on a wooden potty while trying to devour the lessons from a book on his lap. The master walks in and praises little Aching's hustle for not dropping his studies even while going number 2, and the kid asks if the old man also came to empty his tank. The master, getting himself ready for business too, asks if his student is practicing transformation, reminding him that this art is one of the trickiest ones out there. The little disciple corrects the old man right on the spot, explaining that the goal there is not shapeshifting but actually mastering the Hu Tian technique. The master gets all hyped up, explaining that the Hu Tian technique is basically a Swiss Army knife. A guy can shrink down until he is totally out of sight or grow tall enough to touch the clouds. But then the old man loses his train of thought and questions why, in the name of everything holy, the kid decided to practice that right there, sitting on the toilet. Back in the danger zone, the sound of something ripping from inside Toby completely cuts through the air. Out of absolutely nowhere, a massive hand bursts out of the beast's guts, catching Erlin completely off guard. The giant hand grabs the elf and chucks her far away like it was just throwing out some old trash. The girl goes flying through the air without a single thing to grab onto to save herself from the crash. The robot X70K just freezes, trying to process what just happened without having a clue where that boss move even came from. Right after that, something long and white starts wrapping itself around the X70K, which is already screaming in pure agony. Locked in that tight squeeze, it yells that it lost all its movement and demands to know what kind of massive, thick cable just trapped it. Little Toby looks down at his own belly button, completely lost, not understanding what in the world is being born out of him. A hand rips through the leather of the beast's back, and it looks over its shoulder in total shock, not believing that is actually possible. Finally, our MC makes his full comeback, lifting the completely knocked out body of the X70K with the greatest ease in the world. He glares at Toby with total authority and asks what kind of absolute freak show he is dealing with here. From a distance, Erlin watches the whole scene, totally stunned, thinking to herself she never imagined the kid had so many heavy-duty tricks up his sleeve.